One of the fastest growing segments of the Canadian population is Indigenous youth. So perhaps it's not surprising that in Ontario's capital city, where more than 36,000 First Nations people reside, the First Nations School of Toronto is moving into roomier quarters and expanding the number of grades it offers. It also has a new principal. He is Jonathan Kakegamic, and we're pleased to welcome him here tonight to tell us more. Jonathan, it's good to see you again.
Yes, it is good to see you.
You and I think, first met in Thunder Bay not too long ago.
Yeah, that was a good series there.
Let's just do a little background on you first, because you came from Thunder Bay. You were the principal at the Dennis Franklin Cromarty High School there. What do we need to know about that school?
Well, it's an important school that serves 23 First Nations of Northern Ontario, and they serve grades 9 to 12 students. It's been open for 16 years, and they just went through an inquest last year. And right now I know that they're addressing these recommendations. And I think that if they follow most of the recommendations, that school will continue to be a strong school for the North.
And it's all Indigenous kids at the school, I presume, yes?
Yeah.
And the students come from remote fly-in communities from all around the place,
Yeah, as far as north as Hudson Bay, Port 7 First Nation, and to the Manitoba border.
And the inquest was about what?
Or just to improve the services of the school. We lost 6 students throughout the years there due to various reasons. And
Was suicide one of the reasons?
no,
Okay.
we don't know what happened to them. And I think that the inquest did try to find out and also to provide recommendations to improve the services.
That's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders to deal not only with a student population from such a vast part of the province, but also where, as we have seen, bad things can happen. What was that like for you?
It was difficult. I still, I still feel it. You never forget the students that you lost because they're a part of your work and life. And I think that my last 7 years as principal, we as a team, we did all we could do with the funding that we received. And I think that, an engaged youth is a good thing. And that's how we started each day, each school year.
Gotcha. How long you been in Toronto?
Since August 31st.
So not that long.
No.
What got you to want to leave Northwestern Ontario and come down here?
Well, I think that I was ready for a change. And I think you could only be, I believe you could only be a principal so long. And I think 5-6 years is a limit I set. I didn't realize I was there for 7 years. So, it's good to have change.
Fresh set of eyes on
Yes.
problems, that kind of thing?
Yeah. And I believe in capacity building. So it's important that other people come up to lead.
What did you learn from your Thunder Bay experience that you think you can apply to Toronto?
I think the experience that I lived personally and professionally prepared me for this role. Thunder Bay is a fast-paced atmosphere, and I think the First Nations School, they do have a vision, and it's an honor to be a part of that with fresh eyes.
There's been a First Nation school in Toronto, I think, since the 1970s.
Yeah, since 1977.
77, okay. And the students have now been moved to a new, bigger school.
A bigger facility.
Only about 3 kilometers away from the last school. Why the move?
Well, I think if you our old site on Dundas and Broadview, it was small, and a lot of people don't realize. I visited that school in the late 90s, and back then, they told me that they're moving soon.
In the 90s?
Yeah, late 90s.
Okay.
So, it's 2007, 16.
This is sort of eastern part of downtown that you're talking
on
about.
Danforth. Yeah. So now, when I think of that, it's exciting that I'm there as principal, 2016, and we moved during Christmas holidays, and it was a big move.
How many students have you got there?
We have 135.
135.
Yeah, and we started with 96 in September.
Have you been sort of bursting at the seams?
We were at our old site.
Yeah.
Our current site, we were all on the same floor, which is nice. Our previous site, we were separated in 3 floors. So, it's good to have everyone on one floor. We're expanding to the 2nd floor this fall.
You took over an old existing school.
Yeah, Eastern Commerce.
Eastern Commerce is what it was called. Can we put the picture of this up, Sheldon? Here's the shot of Eastern Commerce. Jonathan, I have to tell you that I guess some parents have made the point that the building looks a bit like one of the old residential schools, which of course have a notorious history with so many First Nations in the province. What's your view of that concern of theirs?
I hear them. It's important that we address their concerns, because the residential school years, it just wasn't an 8-year span. It was a 5-generation thing. And that's something that's not going to go away. It's part of our history, and we need to keep addressing it.
How do you do that, though?
Through education, through telling our stories. I myself is a residential school survivor, my wife and I.
From where?
Northern Ontario. It's one of the last residential school years. But personally, each story is a personal journey. It's a personal healing journey. And it's important that we share those stories to our young ones. I didn't hear my parents' story until I was 35. Once I heard that, my identity was made. And that's powerful, because you know why things happen. And for every family, it's different. And we need to keep talking. It's difficult, as you can see with me right now.
It's still fresh, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's life. And our kids need to hear our story, because they're going to know who they are because of it. That makes sense?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
Don't apologize.
Yeah.
The grades that you're going to be offering at this new location, from what to what?
Well, right now we're offering K4 to grade 8. Next year we're offering grade 9. And we'll be following that class every year, grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12.
All the way through?
Yeah. So 4 years we're going to have our first graduating class.
Why do you think it's necessary to offer high school as opposed to just have the kids for elementary and then have them go somewhere else?
I think based on what the parents been saying previous years is that they've seen that their students, their children weren't successful in other high schools. Like they've been at First Nation from K4 to grade 8, and all of a sudden they're expected to go to a different totally high school. And TDSB is so, they're aware of these issues. So they made plans to do high school. And that's what intrigued me or lured me to come to Toronto, because I have a good idea and experience in how to operate a high school with First Nation students.
Why do you think it would make a difference in their lives to be able to offer all the way to the end of high school as opposed to just to elementary?
Oh, I think that, the identity, the transition from grade 8 to grade 9 it's one of the most toughest transitions a person that goes through. And with us, with residential school years and us of the lack of connection to the land and our communities, we need to continue to support our kids in providing knowledge, culture, and language to them. And it will help them to identify themselves, of who they are. And I think we could do a lot more with high school, because when you're in grade 6 or 7, it's a different kind of learning. And when you're dealing with high school students, they're actually thinking about their future. And you could have discussions with them, good discussions. And it's amazing for a student to come to K4 and to be with us for 12 years. Just imagine the growth, the influence, the positive influence that you could have with our elders, parents, and teachers involved.
What would be different? I think that's what people want to know. If they were to go to an Indigenous school, what would be different during the course of the school day from any other public school in the city?
Well, it's going to be our native language teacher and our elder. And I just met with them this morning just to talk about plans and issues. And, for me to have them at there just to discuss and make plans, the knowledge that they bring, culture, and the language.
What language?
Oh, what we have now is Ojibwe. And it's important that the kids learn the language because, that's the foundations or one of the pillars in any culture group.
Can you speak it?
I do speak it, but not fluently. And my wife speaks it fluently. And we just had a round dance in our school this past weekend. And she met a person from KI who knew her grandmother.
KI being?
Big Short Lake, Ontario.
Okay.
And he was and my wife was felt so happy that they speak the language. And when you have two people speak that language, it's flowing, it's almost like music. And the First Nation people, we're at a crisis level with our language. Like, I live in Greektown, and
In Toronto.
Yeah, I hear the Greeks speak all the time. It's amazing. But if they lose their language, they could go back to Greece to learn it. If Italians lose their language, they go back to Italy. But where do we go if we lose our language?
How is it your wife knows it, but you don't?
Well, she grew up in a home community.
She did.
Yeah. And she had it when she was a young kid. I never lived in a First Nation community until I was a teacher. So, so that it's important the school plays a role in that. But it takes partnership with the home. It takes partnership with the community.
Well, to that end, how complicated is it? Because I presume your student body comes from all different parts of the province, and there are different languages being spoken, different First Nations, different customs, all under one roof at your school.
Yeah.
How do you figure all that out?
Well, it's a unique situation. Like I think our school has 17 First Nations represented in that school, clear across Canada. And, and it's important that with our language teachers and native and culture teachers that they're aware of that. And they do good on that. They do the research and they do represent each community across Canada where they're from. And like we have clan days. So the kids do get to know who they are based on the research that we do.
Are all the students at your school Indigenous?
Most part, yeah.
For the most part. So there are non-Indigenous students in your school?
Yeah, and like that's the beauty thing of it is that our school's open to anyone. And
if you were a non-Indigenous student, why would you want to go to that school?
I think the added culture, the added stuff we do with our teachings. Like one of the foundations of our teachings is the 7 grandfather teachings. And that's honesty, hard work, stuff like that. And that to me, that's clear across the board of all cultures.
We should just explain that usually when you go to a public school, you have to go in district, as they say, the local neighborhood school.
So
but you got the whole city.
Yeah, we go as far as Humber River to Victoria Park.
In the west and in the east,
and
okay.
north, yeah. So it's a big chunk. Some of our kids ride on a bus for about an hour and a half.
To get to the school?
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's a commitment. Like parents want their kids there.
How about the teaching staff? All Indigenous?
No. Some are. Like most of my support staff are. Yeah.
Here's the key question, I think. Do you have evidence that will conclude that if Indigenous students go to your predominantly Indigenous school, their outcomes are better?
From the school where I came from?
No, the school you're at right now.
Yeah. I only been there 4 months. The plans that we have, it takes time to build success.
But this school's been around for 40 years. Not at this location, obviously.
Yeah, but I think that's why they want to include high school. Like I was going to say, where I came from, DFC, the 16 years I've been there, we are starting to have university graduates. And I think after we have high school at First Nation School of Toronto, I believe we're going to start seeing university students 4 years after they graduate from us.
Gotcha. How about the experience across the province? If you are educated, if you're an Indigenous student educated at an Indigenous school, what do the outcomes tend to be like?
greater, because I'm a firm believer of our own needs to look after our own, because I believe that we're at a crisis level in terms of our language and social issues.
I do remember almost a decade ago, again, in the capital city, some students from the African Canadian community wanted to establish their own Afrocentric school with an Afrocentric curriculum, a student body that was overwhelmingly, and a teaching staff that was overwhelmingly Afrocentric. And there were a lot of concerns expressed by a lot of parents who thought the worst thing to do would be to separate these African Canadian kids from the general student body and put them all in one place. The thinking being, of course, that students of different backgrounds will do better if they're all mixed up together. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you the same question with regard to Indigenous students. Is there a concern that by taking them out of the school, the general population, putting them in their own school, something is lost?
I think that that's a good question. The school where I came from, our leaders knew our kids weren't being properly served. So in their wisdom, they said we need to have our own school. Based on that, I agree with that as an educator. And here in Toronto with FNST, I believe they had the same reasons. And it's important that we always need to protect and provide the best opportunity for our kids. These parents here in Toronto saw the need for their own school. So based on that, I believe that we're doing the right thing. And we're adding high school based on those parents' concerns, because they saw their kids not being successful in regular high schools.
I wondered whether that was part of the story, that the outcomes in the general public school system were so not up to expectation that Why not try an experiment? Why not try something different?
Yeah, so that's where I'm come from. And I think that it's important that it's all providing an equal opportunity for our kids.
Let me put some stats out here for a second, Jonathan, because Statistics Canada says that these stats admittedly 5 years old. 5 years ago, 48% of First Nations people aged 25 to 64 had a post-secondary qualification, 48%, compared to the non-Indigenous, the general population, which was 65%, significantly more. What do you think you can do to narrow that gap?
By doing what you're doing at FNST. I think that, if you provide a quality education, involvement with the parents, which we are doing, and having a main part of each day dealing with their culture and language, we're going to see results.
How hopeful are you?
I am strongly. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. I think you and I have one more bit of business to do.
Okay.
I can't help but notice during the course of our interview here that you're wearing something on your wrist that is extremely disturbing to me. Shall we?
Yes.
Shall we show the people what we're talking about?
Sure.
You take yours off, I'll take mine off, and let's show it to that camera right there. You are wearing a Montreal Canadiens watch, and you are a principal in a City of Toronto school. And I'm wearing, of course, a Toronto Maple Leafs watch, as every good Torontonian and thinking person in this city would do.
Yes.
Jonathan, what is it with you?
24 Stanley Cups.
Oh, that hurts. That kind of brings the argument to an end, doesn't it?
Yeah.
24 Stanley Cups, end of discussion.
Yes.
Oh, man, you know how to hurt me. What's your favorite baseball team?
Boston Red Sox.
Oh, all right. On that we can agree. I'm wearing my Red Sox bracelet as we speak. It's great to see you again. Yep. We wish you well with the school.
Thank you.
And particularly with all the exciting plans you have for high school.
Yes, it's good to be here.
Good stuff. Thanks for visiting us here at TVO tonight.
Thank you.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.